Hey guys, welcome to the Quilting Compound. I'm Jamie and I have a tutorial tip for you today. It is what I call the Kaleidoscope stained glass quilt. What you will need are 12 17-inch squares. I'm going to use batiks. I think that'll work best if you want to call it stained glass. If you don't want to do the stained glass, you can use any kind of fabric you want. I'm going to use, since I am doing the stained glass, this will be my lead strips. So this is just black. I was trying for a dark gray grunge, but I think the black is just going to look better. So I went for this. I did cut these 7/8 of an inch. On this one, I cut them 3/4 of an inch. You know, that is rather small. I thought, I don't know. I think you'll just keep it at an inch or to 3/4 and you'll be okay. You will be doing a lot of chain piecing, and you really do need to keep your blocks in order. So when you're pressing your blocks open, if you can, keep them in order. And what we're gonna do first of all is you can take either a clip like this, a pin, anything. I'm gonna use a safety pin, and you wanna put a safety pin in the top left-hand corner of your top block, your top piece of fabric. Okay, that will mark your top block, and you'll know why here in just a second. So 12 17-inch squares. You can use fat quarters. It's really easier to cut out of the fat quarters, yardage, whatever you have. And we're gonna try to cut through all of these at one time. May not be able to do that. We may have to take a few out, and then we'll go from there. We'll see what we're gonna do. Now I am going to have to move my camera here and get you a better view of what I'm cutting. You're gonna take the biggest ruler you can find, and you want to make your first cut. And I'm going to, you want to line your blocks up as best as possible. And I'm going to make my cut, I think I'm just going to make it like this. And I do have the big rotary cutter. We'll see if I can cut through. Let's see, did I make it? All but one little bitty spot in there. Okay, well, I did it. Okay, that's your first cut. Now, your next step is to take this top piece on the right that you just cut and put it on the bottom. Your safety pin block stays at the top. So you put it one at the bottom from the right. Next, we are going to take our lead strips. These right here. And I went ahead and just left these like this because I think I can chain piece them. We'll see. So you want to take your top left block and put your black on there. And Next, I will put this and it will work. I can chain piece this under here. Then I'm going to cut this tail off. I still need to keep my, okay, I've got the last two here. I've got my strip. This is actually the width of the fabric. I'm going to sew these last two, and then we're going to press. Because we're chain piecing, we're just going to take this and put it under here and line it up. And now it's time to press. And you want to keep them in order. Okay, I've got all my strips here, my black strips pressed. I went ahead and pressed to the black. I don't really know if that's the right decision or not, but we're going to find out. So, and remember, the one with your safety pin, clip or pin, or whatever you marked yours with, it should be on the top. Everything needs to stay in order. So the next step is to sew all these together, chain piece, and make sure they stay in order. And so here we go. So take these right sides together, which, you know, that's the good thing with the batiks. Whatever is the right way is what way you want it to be. Place it on here. It does not need to be perfect at the end here. It may come up a little bit over right here, and it will be fine. It will all work out. A forgiving block, we'll say. Just keep it in order. That's the most important thing. Go on to the next, and then chain piece until all your blocks are sewn together. Okay, so we've got all of our blocks sewn together and put back in order with your safety pin on the top and the left. Just take a little glance at how they look. I think it's gonna be really cool. So now, here's gonna be the trick. We wanna get this stack as even as we can, because we're gonna make another cut. And let's see how this is gonna work, because this is gonna be tricky to cut through. Except this time, we're gonna go towards the right. Use the 60 here. So how do we want to make our cut? This, a big slant. Well, let's try it like this. next time we can just take a couple off and then match that and cut. So here's what our new blocks look like. So now what we'll do is we are going to take 2 from the right hand side, 2 blocks, 1, 2, just like this. Take these 2 and we're going to put them on the bottom. Okay, now we get more of our black strips. And we'll sew to the left side. Just like this. Place your strip, line everything up, sew with a 1/4 inch, close your rotary blade, and then we will do this. Remember, you need to keep it a chain piece. So take this block. Should be enough under here. If not, we'll just get another strip. And then we'll clip this tail. Grab another strip, another block, and keep sewing. Chain piece until we've got all the black strips on, which will be the lead of your stained glass. And I'll keep chain piecing, and then I will be back to press. Okay, we've got all the black strips sewn on to the left side. We've got the safety pinned one at the top, and now we will sew all these together. Line these up. Also, I did press those open. Maybe when I do my next cut, it'll be a little easier. So to just continue chain piecing, remember to keep them in order. Very important, keep them in order. And then I will be back. Okay, I got everything, all my blocks pressed and smoothed out. And because I was videoing earlier, I thought, but apparently I wasn't because it wasn't recording. So this is what I did. I took my ruler and I made this cut right here. See? And I actually did half a stack. And then I used this as my template to cut the other half. So I didn't have so much to go through. So that made it a lot easier. And I'll show you again. So now what we do, that was our third cut. So we're gonna take 3 from the right-hand side, 3 of these blocks, move it to the bottom. Move them to the bottom. And this is what we will add our lead strips to. And it is, I think, better if you just leave your strips the width of the fabric. You don't have to cut them in half, because then you can chain piece. 2 of these blocks will go under 1 strip. So that'll be 6 strips per these 12 here. So now what we'll do is we'll sew all of our strips on. So we are going to sew the strips down to the blocks that are on the left-hand side. Now you want to take this strip right here, put your other block underneath. You want to raise your presser foot up and get it up as close as you can, just to make sure that it will fit. Come to the end, down here, just clip your, I've been clipping the little tail off here. And you can keep that for a scrap, or you can throw it away, whatever you want to do. Grab your other width of fabric strip. This one I did not cut off the selvages, so I did on one end but not the other. So to the block on the left, line it up and keep chain piecing. Okay, so this is the last block of the left-hand side, and I'm finishing up with the black strips, your lead for your window. Okay, so remember, now we got to press all these little guys. I'm gonna press to whatever way that this strip really wants to go to. And I'm gonna clip this off. We don't need this anymore. And this is what it looks like. But remember, see that safety pin right there? It does come in handy. That's your first block. So we'll start at the bottom so we can stack them. So I'm gonna press these and then I will be right back. Okay, so we've got all the strips sewn on. Now we will sew this, the left to the right, or the right to the left, however you want to do it. And then we'll press them all. And we will only have one step left after that. Well, kinda. So let's get to sewing these together and see what they look like. The one good thing about this block, well, there's a few good things, but accuracy is, it really doesn't matter. You can be off. You can be off on your seam allowance a little bit. You can be off on your cuts a little bit, because it's all going to work out. That is the great thing about this block.
And remember, we're chain piecing, so everything stays together.
So we'll sew all these blocks together and then we'll press. Okay, so we've got all the blocks pressed, and I really just pressed to however it wanted to go. And so what we need to do now is we are going to do our next cut. So I think my next cut is going to be almost, which you're not really supposed to do corner to corner, and it won't be, but it's going to be close. But since I have so much bulk right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about half of the blocks, set these aside, straighten these up as best as we can. Just as long as we have it all over here. I think that'll be the most important thing over here on your left hand side. So I think I'm going to make my cut. It's going to be a big intersection right there, but let's. Okay, so we got that cut. That was a little bit easier that time. Set these aside, except your top one, the safety pin, because that will be our template for the next cuts. So bring this stack over here, line it up as best as possible. Place your template block now, we'll call it. Line it up as best as you can. Put your ruler over your template. Make sure not to cut that. Get as close as you can without cutting into it. You're going to need a new blade after this. Let's cut all that up. Okay. So that was our template. That's our top piece. The other pieces back on. And now what we'll do, since that was our fourth cut, we'll take 4 blocks from the top. 3, 4. Sometimes batiks want to stick. Put those at the bottom. Our next step, remember to put your top one back on. Our next step is to put our lead pieces on, our strips. So we'll sew these strips on. Okay, so we got all of our strips sewn on. So the next step is to sew these together, and then that will make our completed blocks. So let's get these sewn together. Let's see how they'll look. Okay, just keep on sewing your blocks together. You don't really have to chain piece now because you have made all your cuts that you're gonna make. Okay, so we've got all of our blocks sewn together. We can go ahead and take out the safety pin. It's not needed anymore. And so our next step will be we're gonna trim all the blocks. We're gonna trim off all the edges because some of them, you know, do look like this. You see the uneven edges. So I'm going to trim all 12 blocks, all the uneven edges off, and get whichever the smallest block is, and then we'll cut the rest of the blocks to that size. So let's go ahead and start trimming some of these up. So we've got this block about squared up, and we'll probably have to go back and trim more, but this is just a start. Okay, so here are all my blocks. They're all squared up. I end up having to cut them to 15 by 15 inch square. And now I have to decide if I want to have it like this hanging up, or do I want to add strips to make like window panes or whatever. If I wanted to do the full stained glass, if I wanted to do something like that, I can decide. But really, I think I'm just going to sew it together like this. And one of the things that I try to do is to make sure none of the same block, like no yellow would meet a yellow, no red on no red. That I did aim for that, but I think it really does look like stained glass. And if you're interested in making it, there's another way. You don't even have to put the black strips in here. You can just cut the pieces and sew it together. But I think this does really look like a stained glass quilt. So I think I'm going to sew it up like this, just as it is, and add 2 borders. So I'll be back with the 2 borders. Okay, I've got the first border sewed on. It's a cut 3-inch, so to be a 2.5-inch finished. The blocks, I want you to note that I did turn them each different way here. And when you press, I pressed towards the bigger block. It made it easier. It was a less bulk. So I think that's your best bet. The next border I'm going to put on, I'm going to make it, I think, a pretty good size. I've got 2 fabrics to try out. I've got this. I have all the yardage for this. Or this, which I think I will probably, I don't know. I'll probably go for the darker one. Or maybe not. I don't know. I'm going to pick. So it'll go one of these 2. Also, it's a good idea if you take a picture before you start sewing them together so you remember which way your blocks go, because you don't want any colors to hit each other. Or maybe you do. Maybe you want to turn your blocks the same way each way in a different row. It's up to you. So I will be back when I get the next border on. Okay, here's the second border. It measures 6 inches unfinished. The quilt measures, it's about 60 across and 74.5 to 75 long. So it is a large throw, almost a twin size. So you needed 12 fat quarters or 12 17-inch blocks. You needed your strips here, your black strips for your lead and your stained glass. I think I wrote that down. That was about close to 3/4 of a yard. And your first border, I did 3 inches, and that takes about 5/8 of a yard. This is 6-inch unfinished, and it takes about 1 1/3 yards. And the binding with a 2.5-inch binding, it'll take 5/8 of a yard to finish. So it's a really good size quilt, and there's only 6 points that you have to meet. So that's great. So only 6 points you have to match. You can press towards the larger block here, and if you press towards that, in each one, they will all the seams will nest. So that is my tutorial for the Kaleidoscope stained glass quilt. I hope you like it, and I'll be back shortly with a tutorial with the fabric slash pillow. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.